Asia. Asia. And just a reminder, guys, I already made my predictions for the 32 teams I think would qualify for the World Cup, but I didn't give specific predictions for World Cup qualifying games for August and September. So this is what this series is all about. So you saw in my last video my predictions for South American qualifying games for both August and September, and here I'm going to give Asia, the last two match days in groups A and B, which are the last match days overall in Asian World Cup qualifying, excluding the playoff rounds. So, at the conclusion of these match days, we will have the identities of four of the Asian participants qualifying for the World Cup, and maybe even all, because it's no guarantee Asia will have a fifth representative at the World Cup. So here are my specific match day predictions for Asia. Starting off in Group A on August 31st, we have Syria against Qatar, China against Uzbekistan, and South Korea versus Iran. I think Syria will defeat Qatar. I don't think there's going to be very many goals in Group A on August 31st. I actually have only two. I actually have very slim victories for all three winners on that day. I think Syria will beat Qatar at home. I think it'll be just 1-0. China versus Uzbekistan, crucial match here for the Uzbeks fighting with South Korea for that final spot, the second place spot in Group A, the last direct spot to the World Cup. I do think Uzbekistan will get a narrow 2-1 victory on the road against China, but you never know with Marcello Lippi's improved Chinese team. They could spring a surprise here, as they did against South Korea at home. And then we have South Korea versus Iran. Absolutely pivotal, crucial match for South Korea here, because they need something at home against an already qualified Iran side before they head to Tashkent in Uzbekistan on the road in their final match. They are in a race with the Uzbeks for the last spot in Group A, and they are in danger, South Korea, of not qualifying for the World Cup. But I just think that this is going to be familiar territory with them. I just think that the experience that South Korea has as a footballing nation and getting the results necessary to qualify for a World Cup, they've reached the last 8 World Cups consecutively. I just think they're just gonna grab it, and they're facing against an Iranian team that would like to keep their perfect record, but they're not facing any pressure to come out and pursue a win here, having already qualified. That's sort of the wild card thrown into this. You just never know how to predict something with teams that have already qualified but still have matches left to play. I think South Korea gets a narrow win here, just because there's just no need for Iran to get a win here. There's no added motivation unless Iran has like a personal hatred of South Korea, which I don't have any reason to believe is the case. So I think South Korea will dig in. I think they will get a narrow 1-0 victory. And then other match days on September 5th, Qatar versus China. Both teams are eliminated. They'll be fighting for pride. Qatar is the slightly better side, but I think it'll end in a 1-1 draw. Iran versus Syria, having just lost their last match against South Korea and wanting to end their qualifying campaign, having already made it to Russia on a high note, they're going to want to pursue a victory against an already eliminated Syrian team. And I think Iran will win this comfortably at home. I think they will beat Syria 3-0. And then the big one, Uzbekistan versus South Korea. I do believe both teams will head into this match still alive, able to clinch a spot. I don't think South Korea will clinch it before they make it to the final match. And this will be very crucial because Uzbekistan is playing at home, but they need a win. South Korea only needs a draw to qualify for the World Cup, and I think South Korea will get it. I think it'll be like a 1-1 draw, and I think South Korea will get the point necessary They will finish on 17 points and ultimately qualify for the World Cup. Uzbekistan, 1 point below them with 16, will go to the playoff. So that leaves us with Iran at the end of this group with 23 points, South Korea with 17, Uzbekistan with 16, Syria with 12, Qatar with 8, and China with 7. So moving on to Group B. Group B, tight race at the top between Japan, Saudi Arabia, and Australia. The United Arab Emirates are still in it, but after their, I believe, dropping points on the road against Thailand, they're pretty much looking at the bottom of the barrel at the moment. So, match days on August 31st, Thailand versus Iraq, UAE versus Saudi Arabia, and Japan versus Australia. I think the UAE is probably just so deflated after dropping points against Thailand. I think Saudi Arabia capitalizes and gets a road win here, 2-1. Japan versus Australia, absolutely crucial match here to shape up the dynamic of this group. Australia have not lost a single match yet in this group. I think Japan is going to win. I know some of my Australian subscribers will not like to hear that, and it's not what I want to happen. I would rather see Australia qualify directly, but I just think Japan will get a narrow win because Japan will be frustrated with themselves that they've dropped points in the last couple of games, and they could have clinched qualifying early, but they messed up recently, and they just want to get it out of the way, and I think that they will qualify in their last game. I think that's going to be a 1-0 for Japan, actually. I think it's going to be very small, very narrow. And September 5th, we have Iraq versus UAE. I gave UAE the road win. I mean, part of me thinks it's going to be a draw or maybe even an Iraq victory. But I do think the United Arab Emirates are the better team, and I give them a consolation for missing out this time. I think they'll get a win against Iraq. Australia versus Thailand. Australia will have to do two things here. They will have to rack up the score on the ties, score as many as possible if this group comes down to goal difference, but also hope that one of Saudi Arabia or Japan gets a victory in their last game against each other. So Australia's fate, if they lose against Japan, as I predict they will, their fate will not entirely be in their own hands, even if they beat Thailand, let's say 10-0, or whatever scoreline, mega scoreline you can think of. Which is unfortunate because I do think they will beat Thailand. My prediction is, I think 4-0. And then the last match between Saudi Arabia and Japan. I think Japan will just not play with the same intensity they will against Australia because at this point they will already have been qualified. Because you have to remember, the psychology of a match is greatly influenced from the previous match that teams play. If a team goes into a final game already qualified or only needing a draw, that changes things completely. In most cases, at least. There are exceptions. I could see Saudi Arabia sneaking a win here, but I'm going to go with a draw, a 1-1 draw, and that would actually put Japan and Saudi Arabia at the top of the group, and they would qualify directly, sending Australia to the playoffs. Japan would have 21 points. Look at how close this is. Japan would have 21 points. Saudi Arabia would have 20, and Australia 19. UAE would have 13, Iraq would have 8, and Thailand would have 2. So those are my predictions for the individual match days. But if you watched my video where I gave my 32 teams who will qualify for the World Cup, I did pick Australia to go on to qualify. I just think that they're going to do it the same way they did back in 2006, going to a playoff. And that's why I have Asia having 5 teams at the World Cup, because I do think Australia will be the 5th representative. That does not mean that Australia is the 5th best team in Asia. Go watch my video where I gave the top 10 sides in Asia. It's just that Australia dropped unnecessary points along the way in this qualifying campaign, and dropping points against Thailand on the road really did not help. They are better than Saudi Arabia. I believe they are slightly better also than Japan. Um, but their performances in this group so far, it has them coming up a little bit short. But I do think they will defeat Uzbekistan in the two-legged playoff, and I think they will defeat the fourth-place team from CONCACAF to qualify for the World Cup. So they're just going to have to do it the hard way. So thank you guys for watching. Leave a comment below, like, subscribe. Till then, have a good night. Much love. See you in my next video. Peace out.